Hello guys, how are we doing and welcome back to the channel. We are here with the Black Ops 7 beta. If you want to check me out playing live, you can check my Twitch down below. But today we're going to be going through the settings you're going to want to need to make sure you get the most out of the beta as possible. It's going to reduce latency, improve your accuracy, and all of the other bits to make sure that you load up with the right settings so you're not at a disadvantage. When I loaded up, all my settings were changed, so I recommend you making sure that you do change and check your settings have got to this point before you load into a game. Otherwise, you're probably going to get beaten. So without further ado, you guys probably want to crack on and enjoy the game. So we're going to start off with the controller settings. You want to have the button layout completely up to you. I prefer tactical because I like to crouch with my right stick, and I have melee attached to a back button. Horizontal stick sensitivity should be about 1.5, 1.6, 1.7, around that level. Everything else here should be off. Again, you can just whiz through this and look if you want. Controller vibration, you want off. I've got rumbles taken out of this, so it doesn't really impact me anyway. Trigger effect should be off. Dead zone inputs, these should be as low as it feels comfortable. If it's anything above 10, you're probably going to witness some sort of input delay. So for left stick and right stick minimum, you want it to be as low as possible without you getting stick drift. You can test that using the test stick dead zone, but you want it to realistically be as low as it feels comfortable without getting too much stick drift. And if, as I say, if it's anything above 10, you're probably going to feel a little bit of input delay when you're using your stick. So for the best controller experience, I recommend 3 and 3 for your left and right stick, or at least as low as it can possibly get to. Left stick max, I prefer to have at 75, so sprint kicks in a little bit quicker, and we're going to get onto sprint settings in a moment, but that's a really nice way to make sure your movement is snappy while still being in control. Moving on to aiming, we're not going to go into this sensitivity multiplier specifically. Your look conversion should be standard unless it's a personal preference you want to change. Aim in advanced settings is where we're next at. So you want the ADS sensitivity transition timing to be instant. I'm sorry, I'm whizzing through this because I know you guys just want to crack on. And that basically ensures that when you ADS, your ADS sensitivity is instantly enabled. And we want the response curve as dynamic and turned all the way up to 1. So you can dabble a little bit lower if you want, maybe about an 8 or a 9 to feel a little bit more towards linear, but dynamic around that level is probably fairly decent. And then if you want to make sure that your aim is pinpoint accurate, you want your custom sensitivity per zoom to be on, and you just want to need to change the low zoom ADS sense multiplier. That'll include all red dots, all iron sights, and I like to sit mine about an 0.85, and that's with a 1.6 regular sensitivity. So that makes sure that I'm still able to be quite mobile, but when I ADS, I'm super locked onto my targets. Movement settings, you want sprint assist on, otherwise you're going to be spamming your sprint button more than you need to. You want to make sure the delay is 0 with the sideways assist and backwards assist as on as well. You want mantle assist completely off, crouch assist completely off, corner slice, personal choice. If you want to lean around corners, it's a visual thing. Other players will see whatever setting they've got. You want that off. Realistically, I feel like that's a little bit more of a arcadey experience. Wall jump assist off, active roll assist off. Now, the reasons we've got all of these assists off is so that you are in 100% control of what you are doing in the game. You don't want the game to be making decisions for you. At the end of the day, if you're in control of it, you're the only one to blame, okay? You can't shout at the game when it's doing something that you don't want it to do at the end of the day. I don't dive much, so I like to have my slide dive behavior slide only. Again, you either want to do slide only, dive only, or hybrid. Tap to slide and tap to dive will make a delay on whatever the tap one is, because it has to sense whether or not you're about to keep holding the button or not, and as a result you want to really avoid the tap to slide or tap to dive settings. If you slide only, click to slide only. If you want both, then do hybrid rather than tap to dive or tap to slide. Moving further down, we've got sprint restore on, sprint maintains, slide maintain sprint on, and then the windsuit activation is all relatively standard. You want to make sure your slide active roll behavior is tap to slide, if that's the same as what you've got up top. And then we're going to dive into the movement as advanced settings. Now, because we've got the sprint assist on further when we just saw that, you want to make sure your tactical sprint activation is single tap sprint. Again, that's going to make it so that you're not just constantly ramming down the left stick and it doesn't hurt your thumb or break your controller, but you're still able to be somewhat in control. So it's a nice balance in between. However, if you're happy literally having to input more into the controller and buy new controllers every month, you can change it so that you have to double tap the tactical sprint. It's completely up to you. Plunging underwater, you actually want free, so you can, like, as you look and up, as you lift up, you can move like that. Again, just adds that little bit more control. And that's pretty much going to be it for movement. So when it gets down to combat, everything else here should be relatively standard. If you want to prioritize finishing moves or prioritize body shield, you're more than welcome to do so. If you want to be a little bit trolly, that's a nice way to do it. Everything else is relatively Warzone based here. Combat advanced settings is what you want to have on here, and this is just exactly how you want it. I prefer prioritize interact, because it means that when you're out of ammo and you're in a close range engagement and you need to struggle to get more ammo, it's a lot easier just to pick up a gun than reload. It's a lot quicker to do that. So I'd love to prioritize interact. So I just tap square or tap X on your Xbox controller and it instantly picks up the gun rather than you pressing it and having to reload. I prefer that, but it is somewhat personal choice. You want your sprint cancels reload probably off, and your mantle cancels reload probably off as well. Akimbo is obviously akimbo. I don't know if it depends how much you want to use it. And then these all should be as you can see, just so. I don't think anything else is in the overlay. No, that's good. And that's it for the controller settings. We're now going to move on to graphics. So moving on to display, you want it to be whatever display you've got, and full screen borderless or full screen exclusive, whatever suits your needs. If you've got two screens, you probably want borderless, so you can transition between the two a lot easier. NVIDIA Reflex low latency should be on plus boost, or on, depending on if your computer is being bottlenecked by your GPU or your CPU. Mine is being bottlenecked by my GPU, so I have on boost. If it's the CPU being bottlenecked, then you want the other. And then you want VSync completely off, frame rate limit, make sure that gameplay custom frame rate limit is above what your PC is capable of, so it gets to that. Menu resolution doesn't really impact gameplay at all, so that's relatively easy. High dynamic range you want off, and then it moves us on to quality. So within quality, you want to make sure your render resolution is 100, and this is on custom. Sometimes this will default you to something it thinks is going to be better for you, but you don't want the game to look awful. Keep this at 100. Dynamic resolution you want really off. Now, as far as upscaling and sharpening, Fidelity FX CAS is the best of both worlds of making sure it's crystal clear and you've got the best amount of FPS. So this whole element here is just going to boost FPS massively, this whole settings guide bit in quality and display. And once you've got onto Fidelity FX CAS, press square or X if you're on an Xbox controller and make sure it's all the way up to 100. You then want frame generation off, your VRAM scale target up 90, so it uses as much of your scale as you can out of your RAM. And then you want variable rate shading off as well. And everything else should be off or as low as possible. Now, if you then load into a game and you're getting way more frames than you really need, and you want maybe a little bit more texture or a little bit more graphic quality, then you can come back and change the texture resolution to maybe low or normal. But as you can see, you're looking at my bottom left here, that substantially uses a lot more of my target RAM usage, which means I will get less frames per second. So arcade COD shooter, I just want everything to be really low. When you're on-demand texture streaming, now this is actually really important to reduce lag. If you find yourself lagging in-game, make sure this is minimal and it is turned all the way down to 16 with download limits on and the download limit as 1. That means it's not going to use your internet to just download textures and stuff like that. So make sure that is your settings, and that will reduce your lag and maybe some packet bursts you might experience within Black Ops 7's beta. Again, everything else is either low or off, and that's how you want it to be if you want to get as much out of your PC as you can possibly get. Moving on to view, again, these two are completely up to personal choice. FOV, personal choice. If you're a Warzone player, you're going to want 120. If you're purely pubs and you want to really finesse yourself in multiplayer, like the arena-based multiplayer, 6v6 sort of mode, you want somewhere between 90 and 110, or 95 between 105 is a sweet spot. I like 104, give it a go. You want the ADS field of view as affected. You want the weapon field of view to be wide. That makes it so that your gun is smaller on your screen, which means you can see more of everything else. Third person is third person. You want your motion blur off and your camera movement to be least. Otherwise, you're going to be rocking around a little bit and it's going to make you a bit nauseous and make you, not enjoy the game experience, maybe. And that's it. And then obviously inverted flashbang. If you want it to go black instead of white when you get flashbang, you want that to be off as you want that to be on. We're now going to move into a little thing that's going to make you hear things better. So generally speaking, you want your master gain volume to be whatever. You can play with that depending on what your other settings on your PC or Xbox are limited to. Your speed to output could be whatever it should be. You want this to be sucker punch, and that's basically going to enable things to be really loud, and it's going to make it's going to have the tightest dynamic range available, meaning that footsteps and other players' audio are going to be much more audible for you. And then everything else is fairly straightforward. You can have the hit marker preset as default. That's going to make you feel like you're playing a new game. Okay, if you change it to classic, it's going to make you feel like you're playing a game from a few years ago. At least we're playing Black Ops 7. Let's make it so it's on default. And then voice chat is voice chat. You can test what you want with that. We're now going to be going into something that's going to change your game quite substantially. So you want your HUD visibility as on, and your HUD bounds you want to pull in as much as you can. So use your left stick to make it so that this frame is as close to the center as possible. That's going to mean your eye has to do less movement to look at the kill feed, to look at how much ammo you've got, and more importantly, to look at your radar and compass to make sure you're identifying enemies as quickly and as effectively as possible. That is a big change, and I would recommend you really pull those HUD bounds in if you want to be a little bit more reactive to what's going on around you. Just like so. Radar off, minimap visibility on, minimap rotation on, and compass on. I love the compass. It's at the top of your screen, and it really helps you line up some really long nades across the map because you can see exactly where you're aiming according to like a red dot from an enemy shooting, for example. Crosshairs ideally should be static. That's going to enable you to make sure that they don't bounce around and they're a little bit more true to the center of your screen, which I think is important when you're trying to center properly. And your crosshair dots should be on. Again, you can play with opacity and color depending on what you want it to look like realistically. One more thing before we finish off today: color customization. If you're struggling to see people, I don't know how because this game's quite vibrant, you want your color customization to be as follows. So color palette, completely up to you, but your color filter needs to be filtered too. That makes all the colors pop a bit more, it adds a little bit more contrast and just makes readability and visibility a little bit more enhanced. Once you've done that, make sure the color filter is set to both, and the world and interface color intensity are both cranked all the way up to 100 so that you are getting the most out of this color customization. And that's actually going to do it from you guys. Log in, let me know if you've got any adjustments to these settings that you prefer, but I'd stay within the realms of what I've just shown you guys. And yeah, enjoy the Black Ops 7 beta. As I say, I'm live on Twitch if you want to check me out using the link in the description or in my channel, and I will see you in the next video. Ciao for now.